Hello lovely people, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are all well. Today is the second review in a 2-show day that I recently did in Birmingham. The first of which was Pretty Woman the Musical, which is the UK tour version, which was my last video. My brain, you could clearly see, was trying to work out how to put that into words. However, it wasn't the first show I saw that day. In fact, the first one that I actually did see was Sinatra the Musical at the Rep. By the time that these videos were going to come out though, however, this show has already closed. So I thought I'd put Pretty Woman first because it is a new production, a new tour production, and then put this one next so you can know my thoughts and feelings on the Sinatra musical, but also we get to know about a show that is still going on, if that makes sense. So if you do want to know my thoughts and feelings on this show, then stick around and we'll get into it in 2 whole seconds. Was the most chaotic entrance to a video. You are very welcome. Let's get into Sinatra the Musical. So this show came around as a world premiere. It's the second world premiere of a musical written by Joe DiPietro. Hopefully I'm pronouncing their surname correctly. The last time he did a world premiere was for What's New Pussycat, which should have another life on a different story, should come back, amazing time. But it's also the writer behind Memphis the Musical and also Diana the Musical, which is the one that was on Netflix and is going to be in London doing a concert-y version in December on a Monday though, so I can't go and watch it, but that's by the by. But Sinatra, getting back into the realm of this video, had piqued my interest, shall we say, and as I knew I was going to Birmingham to see Pretty Woman, I decided to try my luck and go and watch Sinatra. As I said, it is written by Joe DiPietro and also is directed and choreographed by Kathleen Marshall. So 2 massive names in theatre, which was very exciting, and also another reason why I was very interested in checking this show out. This musical is based on, you should probably guess, the life and times of Frank Sinatra. It uses a lot of Sinatra's back catalogue, some songs that I knew well, some songs that I kind of knew, and some songs I had no idea about. Just to give you an inkling on how many songs were involved, this whole list was in the show. In fact, let's count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 25, 26 songs, which is a bit insane. The story of this show circles more around Sinatra's personal and private life, a little bit on his career's highs and lows, but more on his family life, his love life, his many different affairs and rendezvous, and also his 2 main relationships between himself and Nancy, who was his first wife and also his second wife, who was Ava Gardner. Most of this story was brand new knowledge to me. I don't know a great deal about Frank Sinatra as a person. Kind of know him as the crooner song singer that he is. so everything that I walked into was pretty much brand new information. The story was definitely a slow burner for me. I felt in Act 1 that it had its moments, but then at times it kind of lost its way for me. It had mentions of racism and segregation, and also Sinatra's relationship with the mobsters and mafia, but then it kind of went away. They kind of spoke about it and then it was took back and never really mentioned again. It felt like definitely in Act 1 they were trying to cram so much of his story in, so that by the time you got to the end of Act 1 and Frank was pretty much alone on the stage singing That's Life, that we got to the pinnacle of that moment, ready to take it into Act 2. It felt like it was all building up and things were put in, but then were never spoke again about, and it just, I don't know, it was definitely a slow burning plot. The more that I got into the show, but it did at times take me a minute to work out what was going on, what was being said, and where the story was going to go next. And like I said, it does have 26 songs in it, some of which I kind of felt were a little bit shoehorned in for the purpose of putting a little bit of the song into the show to get to a new point, which sometimes happens with the kind of jukeboxy musical, because we want all the hits in there, but sometimes it took away a little bit from the show and it didn't necessarily have the best purpose to be in there, if that makes sense. Like I said, it has been directed and choreographed by Kathleen Marshall, and you could definitely see some of her big numbers, which felt so fun and thrilling. I do feel though, because of the size of the Rep stage, some of the moments kind of lost their way a little bit. The group moments felt almost a little stunted, like if there was a few more members of the cast or a cast in that space, it would just felt a bit more, which is what I feel like the big moments were aiming for. But because of the stage that it was on and the way that the story was told, I kind of felt like there were some moments of the choreography that felt just a little bit stunted, maybe is the best word to describe it. It just felt like it was missing a little bit of like sparkle, a bit of dazzle, you know. The set design by Peter McIntosh was another thing that I enjoyed, but kind of I felt needed a little bit of polish. Most of the set design or the set moved either up from the rafters or it came from the right hand stage side. I loved it aesthetically. It worked really well to know what was happening, where you were, what was going on in the scene. For example, the Sinatra's Hollywood home had all the glitz, the glamour that you'd expect of a residence that is in the Hollywood Hills. It had all the mod cons for the era. It had a flashy looking set. The only downside for me was that when things were moved off stage from the side into the wings. It seemed a bit loud. There's no other way to describe it. I was in row F, which is obviously relatively close to the front of stage, and you knew when there was going to be a bit of set move because a side curtain would kind of slide open and then it would move off stage. However, that side curtain was not the quietest, and I kind of felt like because of that you were took away a little bit from the show whilst it happened, and you just kind of had to let it happen and then get back into what was going on that stage. Because let's move on to the cast, because they were amazing. Firstly, I wanted to mention the ensemble, which is, I want to say, like 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 strong. They were all insane. They had multiple strings to their bows. They played anyone from stars that were in Sinatra's life, from Lana Turner to Gene Kelly, who was played amazingly by Greg Bernstein, Billie Holiday, who was just, there's one song in Act 2 which is sung by Frank Sinatra, who I shall get into in a minute. It was actually Frank Sinatra for obvious reasons, but it was sung by Frank and by Billie, and I could have sat and listened to that song over and over again because it was just so nice to listen to. Let me see if I can remember what it is called. One for My Baby. Chef's Kiss. It was beautiful. But yeah, the ensemble were amazing. They took on so many roles throughout the show and also were amazing to watch, again, like I said, in those large group moments where pretty much the entire cast is on stage. Performing that choreography was just really fun to watch. Dawn Buckland and Vincent Riotta, who played Dolly and Marty Sinatra, otherwise known as the Sinatra's parents, or Frank Sinatra's parents. They were really fun to watch as a duo, but also individually. In this show, Frank Sinatra's mum, who's called Dolly, is very much the epitome of an Italian mother. She has a lot of thoughts in her head and they all come out. Some of them are a bit powerful and forceful, and some are loving. They're all loving, but they're done in such a way that you could just see she's the head of the household, and I really enjoyed watching Dawn do her thing. Vincent playing Marty. Marty Sinatra is the more passive member of the Sinatra family. He is quiet but is always thinking, and like I said, the two together are brilliant to watch. I really enjoyed watching them do their thing together. And definitely the parents bring the humour. They help to lighten the mood. Obviously there is a few things going through Frank Sinatra's life that he has to go through, and some of them are not the most cheerful of themes, so it's nice to have that almost comedic duo in there just to lighten up the mood, but do it not in a way that takes away from the rest of the show. Let's move on to the 3 leads of this show. Firstly, let's talk about Ava Gardner, who was played by Anya Villafania. I butcher people's surnames, and this is no more than me just being terrible. Anya is a powerhouse. Both the women in his life in this show are true powerhouses. She has an amazing voice. Plus, I just feel like the way that she's portrayed in this show, Ava Gardner just takes no messing from no one. She is almost like the independent woman that everyone just wants to be friends with. She's like the ultimate popular gal. And I just really enjoyed watching Anya in the role. She was stunning to look at. Like I said, her vocals were insane, and I just really enjoyed watching her do her thing on that stage. The same with Sinatra's other love interest in this show. His first love, if you will, playing Nancy Sinatra, is Phoebe Panaretos, who, oh my god, I fell in love with throughout the show. Nancy Sinatra is portrayed in this show as the ultimate in family woman. She is so loyal. She is thrown into the deep end, coming from meek beginnings, thrown into this stardom life alongside her husband and her small children. And I think for me, Nancy Sinatra was one of my favourite characters in the show. Phoebe's voice was absolutely insane. It was just so beautiful to listen to, and I really enjoyed just watching her when she's on stage. Both her work with Matt, who was Sinatra, and also with other people that came into her life. For example, in the first act, when they are holding a big party in Hollywood and someone who has been linked to Frank in the past appears onto the stage, she takes no messing and is like, "It's lovely to see you, a shame you couldn't stay." Almost just, I was like, yes woman, you do that, you just take no messing. I love a woman who can take no messing, and Frank Sinatra in this show just has two incredible women at his side throughout the ups, the downs, the highs and the lows. Finally, let's get into the main man himself. Playing Frank Sinatra was Matt Doyle. Matt had an incredible stage presence. He had the audience in his hand from the moment that he was on stage and started his first notes until the bitter end. He just takes the show and the audience through Sinatra's very interesting story, and I really enjoyed watching him do that. Obviously, Frank Sinatra has a very poignant and very obvious voice. Matt does not impersonate him. He does his own idea of Sinatra, so he's not being Matt, being Frank Sinatra telling the story. He is Matt being Frank Sinatra singing in his own way. That wasn't the best way to describe that but it's the only way I have. The long and short of this show, the long and short of this review and this chat is that I'm glad that I saw this show. I enjoyed watching it. Like I said, it took me a while to get into it, but if you know nothing of Frank Sinatra going in, you are introduced to a glorious back catalogue of music played by an incredible live band. And if you are a fan of him already, you will enjoy sitting there and listening to the amazing music, whilst maybe even learning a little bit about what went on for Frank throughout his life. Like I said at the beginning, unfortunately this show has now closed in Birmingham. Hopefully one day we will get another production of this show, which is why I chose to film this video here. I'm glad I went to see it. I wouldn't rush back, but there aren't many shows that I would go back to straight away. Some of which you can probably guess, but that's what's going to go down in the end of year review. But anyway, I've whittled on for long enough for this video. I'm going to leave you here because my hot Ribena is now stone cold, which means that I've done enough talking. But there we go. Did you get a chance to go and watch Sinatra the Musical at the Birmingham Rep? What were your thoughts and your feelings on this show? Let me know down below. And yeah, I'm going to leave you here. So thank you for watching. Thanks for watching my thoughts on Sinatra. I love you all lots. I hope to see you next time, and keep it stagey, and yeah, cheerio.